All right, guys, welcome back to the Other Peter Fitness Podcast. Today on the show, I have Whitlock, who is the CEO of the Leviathan Nutrition, who I just got and part of their ambassador program. For those of you guys who do not know, Leviathan Nutrition is basically a bodybuilding slash health supplement line, basically marketed at athletes that are enhanced. It can also be used for like general population, people that have like some health issues and whatnot. And Will is the CEO and owner of Leviathan. He also is a bodybuilder, and I believe you competed like back in, was it 2019, 2020-ish?
So actually for bodybuilding, I've competed twice.
Okay.
I first competed in 2014. Kind of went back and forth between that and powerlifting, and then I competed again in 2021. And then I've been like fully into bodybuilding since then.
So why did you choose to do like bodybuilding over powerlifting?
Well, I originally I've been working out for a long time. I got into lifting basically because of bodybuilding back in like 2016 or 2006 when I was 16. Like watching, I remember meeting Jay Cutler in 2006. That was the first bodybuilding show I went to, and like he was actively competing at the time, and he was just like massive. Like he was like wider than he was tall. So like seeing that in person was incredible to me. Like I don't know, I was always really skinny, so I wanted to be like a pro open bodybuilder. You know, they didn't have the other divisions back then, so it was just cool to see like that like freakish human size. So that's basically why I got into bodybuilding. So I competed in 2014. That was my first time. But like even before then, I really enjoyed just training more like a power lifter. Like my favorite lifts were always like squat and deadlift and benching until I had some pec issues that basically I would have to lay off benching for a while. But I really enjoyed doing those lifts and just like training hard. So I guess that kind of made me want to try out powerlifting because I liked training for powerlifting and like having like a, you know, more of a sports athletic kind of mindset. Gave that a try. I competed in powerlifting in 2015 and did a full meet, did all right. I got like third in a pretty competitive meet. Tried competing again in powerlifting in 2016, ended up having to drop out of the meet a week before because of some knee issues. Tried again in 2017, and my first squat attempt, I ended up with like a partial tear on my quad tendon. So I had to drop out of the meet after that, and then just like rehabbed a little bit after that. And that's kind of when I decided like maybe competing in powerlifting isn't for me and started going back towards bodybuilding. But I mean, bodybuilding wise, it was always hard for me to put on size. I've always had a very fast metabolism, and I guess one mistake I made was not having a coach like consistently, especially during the off season. So you know, off season would come around, and like I'd kind of fall off the habit of eating consistently and eating enough because, you know, once you get tired of eating, like if someone's not pushing you to do so, or if you don't really have it set in your mind that, you know, you want to achieve this and this is necessary for you to continue, you know, making, growing and making muscle gain and all this, it's hard to fall out of that habit. So, you know, I just eventually start doing that, and that's kind of why I ended up spinning my wheels for a few years. But you know, since like 2021, I've had a coach. My coach is Austin Stout.
Oh, awesome.
Which, yeah, he's really a really smart guy. So I enjoy.
Yeah, he coaches my my buddy Connor, who's like 250 at like, I think it's like 5'11". It's like really, yeah. So,
yeah. I like him. I mean, he's kind of someone who practices what he preaches too. Like I don't want to go to a coach who's like never competed, or they themselves, you know, don't progress on a regular basis. So, you know, he's a good dude, and I like his principles, and it's been working well so far.
so that's a really you get a lot of value there that you just shared. So number one, I think that one of the biggest things with powerlifting is that it's like you have to have first and foremost have like the orthopedic genetics to like be okay and be able to tolerate those heavy loads and continually like get stronger and not hurt, because most of the time people that cannot do powerlifting or decide not to do it are typically people that can't like really handle the heavier intensities year round. Plus like squat, bench, they're just really hard exercises. And unless you have the there's that like bones to structure and joints to actually tolerate those shear forces, it's really difficult to make progress, and that's typically the bane of most powerlifters. And I think that bodybuilding for you, I kind of like what you said, like, well, that's always been actually the thing that got me into fitness. I saw Jay Cutler, which Jay's like, if you watch like his like Rip to Shreds documentary, like it's nuts. Just like seeing like how he looked at his prime, like I can't imagine seeing that in person.
Yeah.
But I like what you said though about like how like when you're thin, it's really like I mean, we were talking about this in the DMs too the other day, how like depending on like what type of eater that you are, like you're gonna either find that cutting is really difficult for you, or that bulking is incredibly hard for you. So like out of curiosity, like how high does your like calories like have to get like when you're that lean or that thin in order to like actually start like growing? And like how like was that like how uncomfortable was that, and how uncomfortable is it still?
Yeah, so like most of the time, because I first worked with a coach for bodybuilding in 2014, 2015, after my first show. Back then I was working with John Otis Hollywood. And in the off season, I would be stuck at like 220, 225. And we would get up to like around like 6,000 calories. And like even that, I was
Wow.
still getting like over 230. So yeah, like my protein would be like 350. Carbs would be like 8 to 900 grams, and fats like 100 or something like that. And I had to get up that high also back in like 2020. Again, around the same range, like 225, 230. It's when I end up hitting that like 6,000 calories a day or so. Um, and yeah, it was very unpleasant. Like a lot of my carbs would come from like things like Gatorade powder, or like just like easier sources. I also use like Carbolin, because that at that point, if you're eating like 900 grams of carbs a day, it's not all going to come from rice. It's like
Yeah.
like just like your stomach will like explode or something. So I try to find things like that. What we do right now with like my intro workout, we'll do a lot of carbs there, like 150, 200 grams of carbs, and like Gatorade powder, Carbolin, and then that you just sip during your workout. So that's a good way to get those calories from somewhere that's not going to be hard to digest or take a toll on your digestion, and impact your meals. And Yeah, most previous off seasons, I would basically end them with like that. I would just like end up projectile vomiting, like after a meal or something. Like I just couldn't take it anymore, and then that's kind of when I would it would tell me that like, okay, it's probably just time to start like a deficit or something. But actually, I think just this last off season, I guess because like my digestion has improved, and also my metabolism has slowed down a little bit. I always used to have a very high TSH, or very low TSH, like on my blood work, and
Mm-hmm.
be like really zero or something. Now it's like in like the mid range or something. So I think that's played some role in having to eat less, because last off season I only went up to like 4,500 calories or something a
Mm.
day. And it was definitely one of my better productive off seasons. So I think just having, because I was always having issues with digestion, I've had GERD, like the acid reflux, for like 15 years or something. So I think that really screwed with my digestion over the years, and we kind of fixed that a good bit in the past couple years, and that seems to definitely played a role. And yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, starting my off season now, and again, I think we'll probably be around maybe the 4,500 calorie range or something. I don't expect to have to go up to like 6,000 calories or something like that. So definitely a lot better, for whatever reason now than it was in the years past.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's like, oh, that's it's a problem and have to eat like 6,000 calories. But like when you're trying to like gain weight and like get bigger, like when you have to eat like that much food, you're still like not seeing like progress. It's like really like you like demotivating. It's also interesting that you said that like the TSH number has like gone up. Because I know that basically like with like long-term use of like GH and like AAS, typically there is like some downregulation of thyroid, so that could also play a role in it. Also, like, if you have like genetic like predisposition to hypothyroidism, you might have that like later onset in life. But I know that you had actually, this is a good segue into your company is I was watching one of the YouTube videos on like your GI support product, which by the way, like I have, so being anorexic for like 6 years in high school, like very much messed with my digestion. Still to this day, like I have to follow like a low FODMAP diet in order to get like my calories in, stuff like that. And I've tried basically tons of different probiotics, digestive enzymes from other companies, etc. And I've started using this like your GI support for about a month, and like I am like the most regular I've ever been. I'm able to get down my food without like feeling like bloated all the time, which is a big problem I always had. And like my face is like looks better, like everything just like looks better, and I look better too because like I'm not like inflamed all the time. I know that you said that you were struggling a lot with the GERD, like you said, and then you basically formulated GI support, and you actually were able to come off of Prilosec.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did that basically after my first show in 2021. I waited till after my show, and then, yeah, like I stopped using it. And then I was doing the GI support. I would just do 2 capsules with each of my meals. I do 4 or 5 meals. And then also like betaine HCl just to help supplement with the stomach acid. And then kind of like as your calories get higher, usually you'll probably need more betaine, as your off season progresses or something. But yeah, so at that point I was able to come off of Prilosec, and that's something that I was using for like 15 years. So it was pretty profound. And I think that also played a role with, helping my digestion, and then not needing to eat like 6,000 calories a day, to make progress. Like if your digestion is off, it's going to be very hard for you to make progress. Your body's not absorbing the nutrients that needs to, and all this stuff. So that's going to be an issue. Like people like look at our products and think, it's just for health or whatever, but you kind of need to remember that your body needs to be healthy in order for you to make progress. So that's kind of from the standpoint that I come out, like these aren't products that are going to like put 20 pounds of muscle on you. I mean, no supplement is really, but if you have issues with health or with digestion, it could definitely be a game changer.
100%. I work with Team Evil GSP and like Broderick Chavez and his crew. And Broderick always says like you have to have like performance, like health is permissive of your bodybuilding goals, your powerlifting goals, etc. And I can tell you what, as somebody who just I kept getting sick this past winter, man. Like I kept like gaining 5 pounds and then losing it and gaining and losing it, and I couldn't really make progress because my health wasn't like in check. And like what you said there is so important, and that's why like I really wanted to like I didn't apply for the ambassador program in the first place because like I've used your products in the past. They've had a profound good results on like my lab work, my clients I've recommended the products to, etc. Really just everybody. I think the biggest thing with your company that I have noticed, and this is so important for really any business, is that the word of mouth and like people like referrals, and that's a true sign in my opinion of a good product, is that people will say this helped me out and they tell their friends about it, because that's really the best marketing.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I mean, marketing wise, like just look at my posts, like look at my posts and look at other companies' posts. Like, you have like the photo shoots and like pouring the product and stuff. Like I don't do any of that shit. Like my posts are just like me talking on the phone, or like, sharing people's results or something. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like all of like our products are on the more pricier side to make, but instead of doing marketing, like that's where my money goes into. Like actually formulating the products and making sure that they're made how I want them to be, and they're doing what I intend them to do. And then yeah, like word of mouth is basically going to handle the rest. and that way you don't have to constantly like blow up social media with advertising, and you're going to have loyal customers. Like the majority of my customers are repeat customers, and there's quite a few that have been, with us from the beginning. And like any additional product we make or something, they'll trust that it's good, and they'll pick it up and try it out or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely something as I've always intended to have as the plan for Leviathan, and it seems to be working out well. So I can't complain there.
Yeah, I know. So it's something to definitely be proud of, because there's a lot of companies that are trying to do what you're doing, and I like really respect the fact that like I also like I think that you actually market in a way that's actually very interesting. Is like it appeals more to me than like I think a lot of people in this community who are like a little bit more into like the bodybuilding or powerlifting scene, because like for these other companies, like I think they're mostly appealing to gym pop and stuff like that, and just like the average person a little bit more, because for most of the time, like for somebody like me, like I don't know that my brain works of like, well, I just care about like how are the like results, like is this an actually like a quality product? Because like the reality is that with bodybuilding, powerlifting, really anything in life, especially with these sports, you literally get out exactly what you put into it. So
Right.
if you put in the necessary finances to make sure you're healthy, help out with your digestion, whatever you might be having, like you will see long-term benefits. And just like what you said about having repeat customers, retention's the number one thing. Like as a fellow like small business owner too, like I know that like and I put most of my money into my business and like back to my clients, because that's what matters the most, and a little bit less on like the advertising and more on referrals. So going into sort of like Leviathan, so like what actually got you motivated to start a supplement company like Leviathan? Because I think it's a very unique thing to like say like I wanted to do this. It's like it's really hard, especially to go into this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so my background is I have a degree in chemistry. I got it at UCLA in 2013. I mean, and I got it without really knowing what I wanted to do, like career wise and stuff. I just really was into chemistry. I was obviously into bodybuilding at that point and everything. And I wanted to do something that kind of like combined those two passions. So eventually I, decided for a supplement company, but like not like what most other companies do, because most other companies make like pre-workouts, BCAAs, fat burners, like that stuff never really interested me. So the first product that we came out with was Tudca, because I saw that it was hard to source. It was hard to find Tudca that was like actually legit. I spent like 6 months or something getting different like raw material Tudca and testing it out. And I was very surprised at like the test results. Like some of them were like 0% purity or like 4% purity or something. So it was just like something completely different that like these manufacturers were claiming it was Tudca. So that blew me away. Until eventually we tested out, we got something that was good, and then made a Tudca product. And it just kind of spread through like friends, friends who were like using gear and stuff. They would use it, and it's obviously helpful for them. And they spread go by like word of mouth or something. And then so like I didn't really realize that I could make like something bigger out of this kind of until that maybe like a year into that or something. And I was like, we that was one of our it was pretty popular among like even the supplement space, like our product, just me doing that. So I started making other products. I made IRE and Zenith, which IRE obviously did very well because it was also like a kind of the same like market of people, like bodybuilders, powerlifters, for like general health. They really wanted a product like that. So like that was kind of the point that I realized that we could really do well with a supplement company that focuses on more of like the health aspect and kind of be unique in that way, because there weren't really at the time any other companies that focused solely on like health products. Most of it was still like the pre-workouts and fat burners type of crowd. And then like that was just something that really interests me, because like if you can like stay on cycle longer because you're healthier or something, that's going to make an actual difference in your physique or your performance or whatever, compared to like using a pre-workout or something. Like for me, like I've never been big on those things. Like and to me, it doesn't really translate to like real world results. To me, like the health products kind of would translate to real world results, um, if there was a need for them. So that's also something that I became passionate about, and I'm also just really passionate about looking into different ingredients, and especially like their molecular structure and like the chemistry behind them and stuff, and trying to determine if they'll be like a good fit for a certain product, what kind of research there is out there for it, and things like that. So that's why we have a few products that are pretty like innovative in that sense, that no one else has really done, or using ingredients that aren't very common with the things like this. So that's kind of where the chemistry background comes in handy. And then we have, of course, like word of mouth, and like people with they're sharing their blood work results, or other form of testimonials that show that the products really do what they intend to. So that's great.
Yeah, I like how you said that your chemistry background does help you out with sort of knowing how to like what to even look for, because I think that's like I remember that like when that's a big thing for me is I feel like if you're going to be like a coach, or like you're going to be like a business owner, like you should have some real world experience or some education formally that does at least show that you understand things and you can look for like what's actually going to work. Because the reality is that if you're just like, oh, supplements, and then you're like you don't know nothing about like basic chemistry, it's gonna be pretty hard like be able to tell like what's probably going to work and what's not. Because like the thing about chemistry is that it's really fickle. Like a different like bond is going to change everything. Like for example, if you look up like testosterone versus estrogen, it's very small differences of like the double bonds and whatever, and that changes everything. And I actually remember I originally did get your Tudca, um, like that was my first thing that I did like get from you guys. And for me, like I've always had issues with like my gallbladder, just like because of like just like digestion, especially of like fats, which is like
Yeah.
why I've historically had to keep my fats lower, because I just have such a hard time digesting them. I really just took it as like a digestive support. Um, and like it really helped me out a lot with that, with just being able to like just tolerate like higher fats in my diet and whatnot. And it sounds to me like this is really just like something you're passionate about too. I think that's also why you work so hard at it, because I have issues with the phrase "find your passion," because I feel like you have to work really hard in order to understand like what your passion even is. And I feel
Right.
like probably out over the years, you can probably say that as Leviathan has grown, and as you understood more about this and your product line has expanded, it's really solidified, yes, this is actually like what I'm passionate about. Because it's like telling a kindergartner, find your passion, they don't know, like they don't have any experience. It's like
Right.
I like playing with dogs, that's my passion. It's like maybe, but like you really need to like devote your life to this, because like for example, like with online coaches, like lots of people would burn out of this. They don't do it for like years.
Right.
Doing like lots of small businesses too. I would argue that's actually one of the biggest reasons why most small businesses fail, because the owner actually doesn't have the passion behind the product. They aren't willing to put in the hours
Yeah.
and the work.
Yeah.
So like what goes into like running a supplement company from like I know it's probably very in depth, but I guess like as simple as you can make it, like what or like goes into everything that you have to do on a regular basis to even run Leviathan and keep innovating.
Um, a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like I work every day, I guess. Like Sunday's the only day like I don't pack orders, and actively ship things out, which usually is the longer thing, that more time consuming thing. Since post office doesn't run Sundays, but things like answering emails, answering DMs, things like that, like customer service in general, to like marketing, what kind of like posts can I make this week, or like emails can I send out, things like that. Um, uh, things on like the pricing, manufacturing side, dealing with people who may be interested in retail, working out deals with that and trying to get the best prices for things. And another thing for like when it comes to researching new products, you'll be searching for like different ingredients, because a lot of the ingredients that I use are not ingredients that manufacturers typically carry, because like a lot of manufacturers will carry like run-of-the-mill ingredients. So you go to a manufacturer, you want a product made, some of their ingredients they'll have right there, so it's all in one place. But a lot of ingredients I have to go outside and find on my own, and then have them either like purchase them to myself or coordinate with a manufacturer to have them shipped to them. So we have to wait for them to arrive, and that also eats into our timeline for making sure we have things in stock, because you have to wait for the ingredients to get to them first, and then from there they get the manufacturing process. Things like making sure that products are going to be in stock, which I think I've done a better job at that now than in like 1 or 2 years ago, where we constantly kind of run out of stock on things because I didn't like order ahead or something. But just keeping tabs on that, and then of course the more products that we make, the more of that comes into play, and then figuring out what kind of like where the demand is for future products and what we could do for future products. And then also like graphic design. I have like my buddy's actually kind of does most of my graphic design work. So if I need things like semi regularly, whether it be like an infograph or usually like product labels and things like that, coordinate with him and that sort of thing. Just like a bunch of stuff like that. Just all the back end. A lot of the back end stuff becomes really time consuming. Like if someone like does a chargeback or something, like they purchase something and then they claim like their credit card was stolen. That becomes like its whole own like stressful process to go through. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that you don't see, and it's kind of like a bigger company, because like I've worked at bigger companies before. They have like an R&D team, they have a marketing team, they have a graphic design team, they have a shipping department team. So like if you're a small business, like this is something that you're going to do all by yourself, eventually, until maybe you have employees or something like that. But yeah, so it's still just me, handling all this. So I mean, but yeah, for the most part, like I enjoy it. So it's not like a hassle to me. It's and just being able to do that the whole day. It's like most of my days are like wake up at like 7 or something. I work until like 3, and like that's when I'll ship things out, and I'll go to the gym, come back in the evening, and I'll still have a couple hours of work to do on the computer or something. And like that's, to me, it's like totally fine. It's just like a normal day. Like for most people, it's like you work a 9 to 5, you work those 8 hours, and then you just completely shut off. You forget about work until the next day, or until the next week or whatever, if it's the weekend. But like as a business owner, I'm sure this, like that, you don't have that option. Like you can never turn off, basically. But I don't know, like I kind of like it that way, and I like the freedom that it gives you. Freedom, I guess, but like you don't physically need to be stuck somewhere for 8 hours, because like I worked 9 to 5s, and that's another reason I wanted to do my own thing. Like I hated just having to call someone else to rely on, and having to physically be somewhere for 8 hours, even if you have like nothing to do. It's like, oh, just act busy or something. Like that's just how 9 to 5s work. That was just like the most illogical thing ever to me. But yeah, so like I enjoy being able to do what I do, and having the freedom to do so. And it's something that I'm passionate about, and I have no problem dedicating like all of my time to it, because it's like the bigger picture. Like you're growing something that you hope to like leave a legacy with, basically. Like it's something that's bigger than you. And it's just a really cool feeling, and knowing that you can impact like thousands, tens of thousands of people by doing so. That's like one of the coolest things I think you can do as a person. So yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and looking forward to the future.
It's really impressive to me that you do like all that on your own still, like especially like after like Leviathan's grown. Like because like for myself, like I even just like started like I had my first hire actually like this month after like 3 years of being in business. And what you said about how it is kind of constant, that's 100% true. And but I think that I mean kind of like you, I'm like I don't mind it because like I'm going. It's kind of like how I look at it is I'm I'm doing what I would be doing anyways for like fun. Except
Yeah,
now I get paid to like do it for free, so it's or do it like full time. It's just like it's kind of like somewhat like pinching myself because like you, like I hated when I worked for like other people and was like there was like really like nothing to do. They would like do this dumb thing that literally is not going to do anything. I'm like, this is so stupid.
yeah,
Or just like wanting to like just waiting, like I just want to go home. Like this is so dumb. And like I don't ever have that thought with my own business. I'm like,
right.
there are some days where it's very like hard and very like emotionally draining and whatnot. But like I found that entrepreneurs, especially people that are really good at running businesses, we just have a higher output level, man. Like it's just like we can just go and go and go. Like Alex Ramosi talks about like how him and Layla like structure like their business like their off days. He's like, I go until I just need a break. And like for me, it's like I can literally go like months on end from like, okay, I need a break. And I think that's a part of like success and actually knowing that you're doing like what you're passionate about because I actually think like you should pay attention to what you're lazy with because
Yeah,
that's something that you shouldn't do. Like I hate math, so like I'm not going to do something with like in engineering, even though it can be making a lot of money. Um, and I just think that it's amazing that like deep down, like I think you probably have had like this really big self belief in yourself too, as ever since you started this company that like this is a really good product. It's really going to help benefit people. It's really going to grow. I trust myself, and like I'm sure you've been scared shitless. And I've had several instances where you're like, what am I doing? Like maybe I should just find another job. Like I think every business owner has like those intrusive thoughts.
dude, like
It's scary.
I still get that too, because it's like our sales are pretty regular actually, but like if I'll have like 2 or 3 days where things are a little slow, and like I'll start to like feel like I'm not doing enough. Like it's kind of annoying, but I guess like it's totally necessary too, and like that's probably why I'm at this stage also. So I don't know, it makes you feel alive, I guess.
Totally. It's like your adrenaline jump is just like running your business every single day.
Yeah,
But yeah, like you're going to be around for a long time though. Like and I think it's like especially like I used to freak out like when I was first starting out this whole thing about like how like monthly revenue would definitely like go up and down and whatnot. It's like I have some months where it'd be like 10K plus, other months it's like holy crap, like it's like less than that, like 30%. And I
yeah,
used to like get like so like in my head, I was oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. I just learn like there's seasons to business. There's also like depending on how like you market and if you learn like different ways to do things too. Like the cool thing is that like you're doing this all on your own, but like if you do like once you have the overhead and the margin to like invest in like say like a marketing team or like whatever you can maybe improve even still your business. And that's also exciting to also think that like Leviathan is still pretty young and you guys have like these really cool products, but there's always going to be things you guys can keep adding, things you can keep refining like with your products and updating them. And as long as people are doing that bodybuilding, powerlifting, and people have health issues, like it's going to help them. Like actually, like my mom, also my dad and my grandma have like arthritis, and like I was like and they've tried several different supplements. I gave them like your joint support, and they're like, this is like the best my joints have felt in a long time. So like this is also for like people that like are not like lifting, in my
yeah,
opinion too, because there are people out there that have really bad blood lipids. They could benefit from IRE, K2, D3, Tudca even. So like, and it's just like in my opinion, it's just like you you can either pay $50 for a good supplement or you could spend like I end up in the ER was at a bad injection of L-carnitine in my glutes, and that cost me like $5,000. Like I could have died. But like that's an extreme example, but like you could either spend 50 bucks or $200 a month on like supplements and spend say 2,000, $2,400 for like the entire year, or you can go to the hospital and spend 20K.
Yeah, yeah, seriously, that's a great way to put it in perspective. And yeah, like we started kind of trying to get that crowd more, like aside from just bodybuilding and powerlifting, more of the general public and like also like the older population, since like 2021 or something. Because yeah, like a lot of our products like that, like Tudca, IRE, GI Support, K2D3, like those can be very beneficial for like even the general public who has health issues, even like fish oil, because like most people's diets, they're not getting enough omega-3s, probably getting a shit ton of inflammatory omega-6s. So, even taking that, something that's going to help them. So that's why we also have like our products on Amazon, and especially Tudca does very well on there, because again, it's mostly like the older crowd or like the general public who's buying our products over on there. So it's kind of a great way for us to branch out and market to a crowd that we don't usually market to, even though it's definitely harder to get them to buy our products compared to like a product that's $14.99 and advertises the same thing on Amazon. So it's difficult to explain that side to them, but it's refreshing to see that there are people in that market that we are able to reach and make a difference for. So it's just kind of we can rely more on like word of mouth on in that area too over time, hopefully.
Yeah, the cool thing is that a lot of your population that's enhanced buying your stuff too. Like they're going to like refer similar things. Like the cool thing about like being enhanced, that you have a pretty decent knowledge of at least you should, of like lab work and like what should probably help out with different markers. Because like, dude, the reality is that like like we have an obesity epidemic. Like most people's like lab work, like just being obese is probably like more skewed than most people just running like a small dose of like testosterone, like Masteron, who are healthy and doing their cardio and whatever. And so it's one of those things where I think that again it's just a really like versatile line with a lot of different stuff. And if you were to say like what's like the thing that you're sort of like most proud of, like what's like with like your company as a whole, or like maybe like your own like personal growth as like a business owner.
Sorry, what did you say? I missed like one word.
What are you like most proud of with like about Leviathan nutrition?
Most proud of everything, I guess. I don't like I guess like yeah, just how much we've grown and how big of a difference that we've been able to make in people's lives. I mean, like some of the testimonials or just like people's remarks on our products that I've heard is just like incredible to me still. It's like hard to believe that like my products can do that for someone, people who are like nearing like kidney failure or something, like getting their kidneys healthy again, or people who have horrible digestion and having the best digestion of their lives if they use GI support. People who same thing for like the liver and using Tudca and things like this. So yeah, like whenever I get those messages, like they always like really make my day. It's just really cool. I mean, it's one thing to make money off of a business, be able to do that full time, but like just knowing that you're making that difference in people's lives. And again, like that's why I make these products. It's like you're not gonna like make that amount of difference if you sell like pre-workouts and fat burners and stuff. It's like that's just like the cherry on top kind of thing, like for people to feel good or whatever. But like if you like actually have like a profound medical impact on someone's life, like I think that's just like the coolest thing that I can possibly think of.
Yeah, I think that's really really cool too. His health is just again like you only have like one health, and you can just have to take care of yourself. So I thought it would be cool to sort of go like a very like brief like overview of like your current line and like what the product does, just so like people have a general idea, because a lot of my listeners are probably like, a little bit less familiar with like what these supplements are and like what they can do. So I guess going down the line, NAC, who is it for? What can it do?
So NAC is is that our newest product?
I believe
Second.
so.
So yeah,
Besides HemoFlow.
yeah. So it's just single ingredient N-acetylcysteine. It's basically an antioxidant. You can use it. Most of our folks use it for more like liver function. It's going to have increased glutathione, have like antioxidant benefits towards the liver, and that's something that you can stack on top of Tudca because their mechanism by which they help with supporting the liver is different. Tudca is more of a through bile and like purging out the more toxic bile salts from the liver, and then NAC is more of like a antioxidant standpoint. So NAC is also just for like antioxidant function in general. I think there's some benefits on like if you have like a cold or you have like a lot of phlegm or something, there actually NAC can help to reduce the viscosity of that phlegm. So like if you have a cough or something, that's also something that you can use for that, and just like immune function in general.
Yeah, and I agree. I believe that like also with like Tudca too, like this like hard training can also like help your recovery a little bit with because the liver is liver enzymes tend to get a little bit elevated with like harder training. Like and generally like I've noticed that like I take like NC and Tudca, like my subjective like recovery and like how I feel like after a hard like leg day for use as an example. If I take like a little bit extra like NAC, I tend to feel better like faster. Because of that like glutathione donor that it has, I believe.
Yeah. So the I think it's the basically the acetyl group that it uses and then can produce glutathione from that or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very very cool stuff.
Yeah, and
And
it's super portable too.
yeah, it works better than oral consumption of actual glutathione because glutathione itself has poor oral bioavailability. So it's kind of like the best thing that you can take in form of a capsule to increase glutathione.
Hmm. So in terms of dosing, how much would you recommend for your average gym goer?
I would say like 600 milligrams to 1.2 grams a day. We do the 600 milligram capsules. I'll do just the 1.2 grams a day. Split it up twice a day. So either once, either one is kind of fine. If you're running orals, yeah, I'd go on the higher end. I'd just do 2 times a day probably.
Is there a difference with like just taking it like all at once or like having that spread out like you mentioned?
Um, in general, for most things, I would prefer to spread it out just because everything has like a certain amount of half-life. So like it makes more sense to have things like constantly in your system, like active, uh, rather than to rather than have like a more bolus dose and then undergo periods of where you don't have that ingredient, actively delivering the tissues in your body.
Hmm.
So for our products, I'd recommend splitting them up like that.
Cool. Now going into Tudca off of that.
Okay. Yeah. So Tudca again, mostly liver function, because of the ability for Tudca as a bile salt to um, kind of act as a detergent, so it can purge out more toxic bile salts, which uh, uh, tend to uh, tend to build up whenever you have elevated liver enzymes. Of course, with using oral steroids, this will have the same effect. Can also help with appetite as a result of bettering that liver function. Some additional benefits with Tudca, it can also improve insulin sensitivity a little bit. And then, of course, digestions, mainly for digesting fats. And then it also has kind of a lot of other benefits towards like mitochondrial function, which when you get into like the disease like treatment of aspect of that, just because of its ability to aid with mitochondria, prevent cell death and like protein misfoldings and stuff. But yeah, I mean that's got more in depth, but those are definitely interesting topics that kind of are there present because of the more unique structure of Tudca compared to other bile salts. But yeah, I mean most people from us are going to use it for either like digestion or liver support.
Hmm. I think that also like the protein folding, like the endoplasmic reticulum, like that's also like a really cool thing for me. So lots of bodybuilders tend to like have a lot of protein too in their diets, and this can help out a lot, especially with like GI support with that aspect of things, especially.
Yeah, so it does help a little bit with like digestion of proteins and even carbs to some extent.
Hmm. And then I know you have 300 milligram tablets, correct? Would you recommend like 600 milligrams per day, or just 300?
Yeah, again, it kind of depends like what you're using it for.
Sure.
If your liver function is good, I'd say like 300 with like a heavy fat meal or your larger meals. If you're on like an oral cycle, you might want to bump that up, anywhere between like 2 to 4 caps a day. So it's 600 to over a gram. Because I remember for my show, I think I went to 5 caps a day, so like 1.5 grams a day. And then I got blood work after like a week after my show, and my liver function and kidney function were still great, which I was on like a lot of stuff. I was on like
Hmm.
super last week or last. I introduced Superdrol like the last 3 days, but like that last week I was on like Anavar, Halo, and also Superdrol. And the other two I was on for like 6 weeks. So
Hmm.
I was pretty impressed by the results.
Yeah, like I typically can't tolerate orals, and then adding in Tudca is like it helps out a lot, even though like I can only run them for like 2 weeks. It's like my body just doesn't tolerate them for whatever reason. Like however, but hey, it's maybe with like the GI support in there it can help me out with that. Is my biggest thing has been like my stomach has been like it just gets wrecked.
Yeah, and a lot of people notice that too. That's also why I don't really suggest orals in the off season, because like a lot of orals will just kill your appetite. So Tudca does help with that a bit, but I mean, it also depends on the person. Like I still don't find it worth it to be for bodybuilders, anyways, to be running
Yeah,
orals in the.
no, it shouldn't be the baseline of your like injectables should be the base for sure. So next one, GI support. I know this
So
one's
yeah,
pretty in depth, but yeah.
so or basically like if you have any kind of digestion issue, I recommend that you try it out. There it works in a couple of ways. It has a Prefer Pro. It's a like phage technology, basically works as I guess you can say like a controlled antibiotic that targets only certain bad bacteria like E. coli, a couple of other different ones that it'll specifically target those. So compared to a normal antibiotic, which will just kill off all the bacteria in your gut, but you have good bacteria and bad bacteria. So this basically just targets bad bacteria. So it's going to leave the rest of your gut flora functioning well. And then you have the tributrin, which will basically act as an energy source for the colon for all your digestive functions. Converts to butyrate in the body. It's actually a prodrug of butyrate, which has better bioavailability. So it converts to butyrate, which is basically why you intake fiber. Your gut will ferment the fiber into butyric acid, and then use that as an energy source. Zinc L-carnosine in there also helps with repairing, esophageal and gut lining. So if you've had heartburn, you might have um, some damage from like constant reflux or something. So something like zinc L-carnosine also with DGL will help to both repair that lining and then restore like the mucosal membranes. DGL also helps with like heartburn to an extent. And zinc L-carnosine has a couple of other kind of like more healing benefits, like kind of like glutamine, but I believe it's more effective than glutamine. And then, yeah, I think that's all the ingredients in that one.
Yeah, going off that, a lot of people talk about glutamine. It's such an abundant amino acid, anyways, in our diet. I just feel like it's pretty redundant to like supplement it in. Do something like this is definitely a lot better.
Yeah, and like the thing with glutamine is you need massive amounts of it
Yeah.
too. It's preferred that you do it when you're fasted. So you need like 20, 40 grams worth, like like upon waking or something, and then you
And
still
that's
got,
like that's still calories too. Like,
yeah,
you know,
they technically should count as your protein.
yeah.
Uh,
But you're getting
or,
a little incomplete amino acid profile. So it's like,
yeah, that's interesting. And like, I think a lot of people don't really realize that, or with things like BCAAs too. But I guess
yeah,
that's,
yeah, that's a side tangent.
yeah,
But I know that for myself, I recommend most of my clients like take like one like with each meal that you have. I mean, if like larger meals, like take two if you're noticing like things are getting a little harder to like get down, your food volume increases like increase the like as like some of my bigger meals I've even been taking like two capsules. As I've noticed, it definitely that does help me just feel a lot better.
yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. Like dosing strategy. I mean, you can start off smaller, just take what you need, and then
Mhm.
eventually, if you're in a high calorie intake for a longer period of time, you'll probably have to start bumping things up. Same thing with like your acid requirements.
Totally. Well, cool. Going into HemoFlow.
So HemoFlow is, um, I believe, like the first of its kind of product that it focuses on reducing hematocrit and like red blood cell count in, especially for bodybuilders. When you run gear, your red blood cell production increases. Um, red blood cell chelates to iron, builds up the iron content in your body, and these are all things that can lead to like thicker blood, increased blood viscosity. So HemoFlow helps to get rid of that issue, and not just by having like an iron chelator in there. We have the dihydroquercetin, which kind of works in that way, but by also different things that contribute to blood viscosity in general. We have the vasodrive AP acts as an ACE inhibitor, helps to reduce blood pressure going in that route. Also makes for pretty good like pump product. So
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah, helps to break down the fibrinogen, the protein that contributes to clotting, things like that. Dihydroquercetin also helps to um, it helps with the basically the formability of red blood cells, because look, you don't want your red blood cells to be rigid. You want them to be malleable. So if it has to go through like small vessels, things like this, like the malleability of red blood cells matter. So dihydroquercetin has some interesting research on it that it assists in that red blood cell malleability. So that's another kind of synergistic effects that's going to lead to um, improved blood flow and less viscous blood.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this is such a good part. I think for most enhanced guys to take is because like your hematocrit like in your whatnot like that being high is like that will kill you as well with your kidney functions in like most ways. You could be watching TV and have a stroke. So it's really cool because like I've seen like like you sent over some lab work of like some guys. It's been like basically like a blood dump, which is really cool. Like that's extremely impressive. Like just so you know, like that's kind of like unreal to see like that sort of like result from a supplement. It's like going and donating blood is really annoying.
Right, that too. Yeah, and even in some cases, if your iron is too high, they're not even going to let you donate. So yeah, that's basically what we're going for. And yeah, it's impressive to see that the results are usually comparable to like donating blood. So that's something that you can keep in. And for me, again, it kind of depends on the person, but for me, I can be on cycle and run it, and it'll still slowly like reduce my hematocrit. When normally it's going to be going up if you're not taking any other preventative measures towards controlling that. But yeah,
Hmm.
even because I've seen that as an issue with so many people who use gear. Like the rest of their blood work will look great, but it's always the hematocrit and iron that's high. And other than this, like the only known method for controlling it would be to go donate blood regularly.
Yeah, so this is an awesome product. Like I definitely notice a difference in like how I feel, especially like too like you can kind of feel like like once you have higher like the blood levels of macro, you know how that feels. Is you don't want to like when it's bad. Um, but then going into kidney, this is a really awesome one. the things that you share with your kidney, like kidneys, like guys, you can't get kidneys like again. Like if those things like like high blood pressure too, like hemophlow goes like hand in hand with like kidneys in my opinion too. It's like lowering down the blood pressure. It's kind of like if you guys think about like a hose, like if you have like a big like thing like sort of like going through like a balloon and it's like super like high pressure, like having like high macro, you're gonna like rip apart that balloon. Whereas if it's just like a smooth flow, it's going to fill up the balloon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The hose analogy comes in handy for that. But yeah. Kidney support. Yeah. Like we've had some great when with people sharing their results and stuff, especially in like the last month, we got quite a few good ones. People with like GFR and like below 60, which is kind of like when you're bordering like acute kidney injury stage. So once you're below 60, like it gets harder and harder to come back from. So again, that's why taking care of your kidneys is very important, because your kidneys, once they start to malfunction, things will get progressively worse pretty easily, compared to like your liver, which is much more resilient. But yeah, so kidney support, again, like the kind of the hallmark ingredient there is going to be the astragaloside 4, which I've made a lot of videos talking about. The it's the most active ingredient of astragalus. This is why you see people recommend astragalus extract, except you have to take around like 20 to 30 grams of a typical astragalus extract, unless you specifically have one that's standardized for astragaloside 4, in order to meet that, get like 25 milligrams or so of the astragaloside 4. So we just put that in there directly, kind of eliminates the need for having a bunch of capsules. Also pair that with chitosan, which is an ingredient that helps with increasing the bioavailability of that particular molecule they found in some studies. And that ingredient by itself also has some clinical studies on benefiting kidney function. And then the other ingredients in kidney support also help to basically function as like either like antioxidants or help to reduce blood pressure in some sort of way, which are also going to lead to better kidney function and helping out your kidneys, reducing the stress on them.
Yeah, a really, really cool product. If you guys are having any issues, definitely look into that. The results speak for themselves. So going into IRE, I think this is probably like I guess like the most interesting one. It's kind of like a cocktail of things.
Yeah. So IRE, the biggest part about that is like we have the high dosing of Arjuna, berberine, and citrus bergamot. Citrus bergamot is kind of like lipid, HDL, LDL. Berberine is insulin sensitivity, glucose, things like that. There's been a few studies where it's comparable to metformin, milligram for milligram, in its effects. So there, that's something that you can look
Yeah,
into.
you don't need a prescription to get it, which is nice.
Yeah, don't need the prescription. Also, metformin, and some people can have like digestion issues. So, and then also the Arjuna is for like heart function. We standardize that for arginolic acid, which kind of like the astragaloside and astragalus argument is one of the more bioactive compounds in Arjuna that's going to help with the benefits towards the heart. And then also we have a pretty big dose of curcumin in there, the Longvita, which is I've also made videos on this. It's not like normal curcumin. It's basically curcumin that's encapsulated in a micelle, which helps with its bioavailability. Helps a lot with its being able to deliver it to the tissues that will need it, because curcumin has a ton of benefits with like anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, heart function, like overall organ function. But the issue in humans has always been that it's hard to get to where it needs to be without being metabolized by the liver. So that particular trademarked ingredient works a little better to bypass that liver metabolism and have better bioavailability. And then we also have some other like antioxidant ingredients and ingredients for like blood flow, general health, things like the grapeseed extract, resveratrol. And then we also have astaxanthin in there, which is a very powerful antioxidant. It's kind of like in the same class as vitamin C, but it's structurally a bit different. And it has the ability to like penetrate cell membranes a little bit more because it's like a very long molecule. I think I made a post on this. Wait, maybe I should share it again. I made a post on this like a couple of years ago, but just the structure of astaxanthin is very unique, and it also has some because of that, it also has some benefits towards like the skin and the eyes. And there was a study where it helped to increase the HDL in humans. So that's again a good reason why we have it in this product.
Yeah, no, I love all that. Like, there's lots of like really cool stuff like overall there because like and lowering down inflammation, the blood sugar management, heart health. That's like those are like really big things that will help out really everything downstream. And then like for example, like you need blood work, in my opinion, to know like what health supplements that you really do need. This is a good like starting spot though, just to make sure okay, my general health is probably going to be in decent spot. And then as you get lab work, you can basically say, okay, cool, like I need to take some Tudca, I need to take some HemoFlow, or I need to take like some kidney on top of that.
Yeah, exactly how you put it. I mean, this is like the more overlapping kind of product that like probably the majority of people can benefit from. But if you need to get more specialized, you have certain things in your blood work that need work. The other products will probably be more ideal for that. But this is like a great starter point for like an all-in-one.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think that was a good overview of most of the health supplement line. I mean, there's a few ones that we didn't go over, but I think I grilled you enough about your product. I think what's really cool though is that how in depth, and I really hope listeners like hear like the passion in your voice. So I can hear it. I can hear how much you're proud of these products, and so yeah, it's just that's something that's just so cool to me, and this is like why I really I love your company. It's like something who's supported it for years since. Like you have that passion, you understand everything about it. You can just explain all these ingredients. It's like, hey, well, what is this? What does this do? And you're like, blah 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 blah. This is why you need it. So really cool. So, well, thank you so much for donating your time and coming on. I know you're super busy. So if people want to support you with the Leviathan or follow you on Instagram, where should they go?
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for all those words, and appreciate you having me on. And yeah, if so people, our website is Leviathan. Hopefully they know how to spell Leviathan. Let's see how much.
I'll have it in the show notes. Like it'll be on the thumbnail too of like the YouTube video and the podcast.
But yeah, it's Leviathan-nutrition.com is the website. Our Instagram is just Leviathan Nutrition, all one word and like two N's with Leviathan and Nutrition. And then my like personal Instagram is just the Tudca King, all one word. And yeah, I think that's all the social media aspect. We also have like our YouTube. It's just called Leviathan Nutrition. I put a bunch of like
like overviews too of like the other products you didn't get to as well on there.
If you're looking if you liked hearing me ramble about the products, there's a whole bunch of that on there that you can
even
also
more
check.
in depth. So, and then you guys can also use code Adam10 to save a little bit of money on your guys' orders there. So I'm just trying to include all those notes down there in the show notes. Wow, that was English is a hard language. But thank you so much for coming on, man. And talk to you guys in the next episode.